everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to another speed build. So for today's video I'm doing another Harry Potter build, so that means that I'm doing two of them in a row this time, but that's just how it ended up working out. I'm having so much fun with these Harry Potter builds and I'm building them over on stream, so I don't know, I was just way too excited and I really wanted to build Hagrid's hut. So that is what we're doing today. I'm building in the world of Glimmerbrook, which is the world that came with the Realm of Magic game pack, which makes sense. I mean, it is the magic world, and I feel like it makes sense for most of these Harry Potter inspired builds. The thing is though, the lots, there's not that many lots to pick from in this world, and just not everything works. For example, the Burrow just looked way better in Henford-on-Bagley, and Privet Drive obviously isn't in the Wizarding World. So yeah, that makes sense. This is the first one I'm actually doing here in Glimmerbrook. The only thing that's a little bit wrong, like about this lot for this build, is that it has like a very fancy looking driveway and stuff, but we're just gonna pretend that that is not there and that it's just like, you know, in the woods nearby the Black Lake. The backdrop for this lot though is perfect. It literally looks like the edge of the Forbidden Forest with all the rocks and the trees, and it's just really, really nice. So I feel like this lot ended up working out for Hagrid's hut perfectly, and I just feel like it's so much fun. And as you can probably see, I'm kind of just working on the shell. The shell came together pretty quickly because it's a very like iconic shape for the little house, and it's not that difficult to recreate in The Sims actually. So like the octagonal shape was actually pretty easy to do, and it was kind of fun to sort of just like recreate that. So for the shape of the house, it's only very small. I was kind of like, it was pretty easy to get it done. And I was also feeling very inspired, so that obviously always helps too. But what was the challenge for this one is I really wanted it to just come together nicely, and I wanted there to be some landscaping. As you can see off camera, I already did a little bit of terrain manipulation here. As you can see, I created a little bit of a hilly environment, so that definitely helps. I did tweak that a little bit later on, but I just wanted to have some sort of surface, some sort of hill to kind of start with. So I created this little hill and I just basically started building the shell at first. And then later on, like I said, I will tweak the terrain a little bit. And then I added the pumpkin patch, which I think is just so iconic. Of course, it is basically almost winter time, but I had to just embrace the autumnal vibes one more time, at least one more time, I guess, for Hagrid's hut. Because when I think of Hagrid's, I think of the pumpkin patch. What comes to mind for me mostly is the third movie, so The Prisoner of Azkaban. I feel like that's where you can really see his hut and where it's like used a lot throughout the movie. So that's kind of just like what comes to mind when I think of that. So that's what I was using for reference. Also, I was looking at pictures from the third movie and stuff. So that was definitely helping. And I was kind of debating, I was talking about this on stream when I was building this. I was like, I know that the pumpkin patch is very iconic, but I'm not actually sure if I want to build it because I'm kind of over the pumpkins now. It's December, you know, we've had our fun with pumpkins for this year. You know, I was just kind of over it and not really feeling it. But then at the same time, I kind of knew like this is going to be Hagrid's. Of course, we have to include a pumpkin patch. So naturally, I actually ended up doing that. And I think it turned out so much fun. I think it's perfect for this build, and it definitely makes so that you can sort of just like immediately recognize what we're building here if you're familiar with the movies and the books, that is, of course. But yeah, here you can see it come together. I was having a lot of fun with little details. I really felt like that's what this house needed. It's just a lot of tiny little details to make it look a little bit more interesting and not too, I guess, simple. I mean, it is a pretty simple shape, so that's why I decided, you know, I want like fun trims, I want like a fun roof, and I actually ended up using a lot of life and death for this one, which is perfect. I also used a lot of werewolves because werewolves is just so great for these types of vibes. I also use a lot of werewolves in the Burrow, and I feel like that's kind of like a similarity between these builds, between the Burrow and Hagrid's hut, is that they're both pretty like worn looking, it's kind of messy, nothing's in a straight line, you know, that sort of thing. So that's basically what I ended up doing here as well. Also, I took the liberty to create a little outhouse. I don't think that's ever shown in the movies or maybe described in the books. I'm not exactly sure, but there is no bathroom in Hagrid's hut as far as I'm aware anyway. So I decided to just take a little bit of creative freedom here and add a tiny little building here up on the hill that is going to be a off the grid little bathroom. I did create or add a lot type to this one, which is going to be off the grid. It's not a lot type actually. I think it's one of the lot challenges, which I think is really fun. So I added that lot challenge to make it off the grid. Not exactly sure how that works in gameplay because I'm not that familiar. I don't think I've actually ever really played or like done any gameplay on an off the grid lot. I've definitely tried it like for a little bit, maybe when it first came out, when it was first introduced, but I'm not really remembering what exactly ends up happening when you play off the grid. Of course, there is in the menu, there's like a little area with off the grid items that definitely does show some plumbing and stuff. There's a couple bathtubs, there's a couple of toilets that are functional off the grid to make things a little bit easier. So I did go ahead and place those. There's also a fridge and a stove that are functional off the grid, so I'm not exactly sure how that works. As I was playtesting this though, I did see like I had a tub and stuff place that was functional off the grid, and then you could only have your sim take like really quick, like short showers or wash their hands quickly so that they don't use too much water, stuff like that. So I think there's a couple of like added functionalities or like different functionalities to items that way. But I did think that off the grid was absolutely perfect for Hagrid's. If I'm recalling correctly, it in the show or in the movies is also off the grid. I think he goes out to get water in the books too. So I don't know exactly how the situation, like what it's like, but I do believe that it's actually off the grid in reality. And what I mean by that is in the books and in the movies, of course. So I also did end up placing a well. I didn't do that until a little bit later though, because I realized he needs a place to like get water. So I added a well that is not functional. It's clearly just decorative, but I thought that was really fun. And then here I was kind of creating an outline for the pumpkin patch. As you can see, I was messing around with the terrain a little bit. I made the hills a little bit smaller. And whenever I do terrain manipulation, I definitely use that one functionality where you can flatten it to, or like raise it or lower it to a specific height so that the terrain goes up, but you will still have like a nice flat surface to build on. So that's what I was doing, and that was definitely helping me later on for landscaping as well. So yeah. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm creating some pathways to kind of thinking of a way to sort of, I guess, integrate the fancy driveway that we have here by this lot, but we're just, we're just gonna pretend that it's not actually there. As I was taking the screenshots, I was really trying to like not show the fancy driveway. The one time I'm kind of bummed that the lot actually lines up with the driveway perfectly. Normally I will take that any day because it's just so helpful for building usually. But when you're doing stuff like this, you just want it to be sort of like in the woods and you don't want there to be a driveway. But unfortunately that wasn't the case for this one, which is okay. I mean, we can all kind of pretend. I still think it looks great here though. I think the lot is perfect. The backdrop is so pretty. And yeah, so here it was just kind of going crazy with rocks because I had to integrate my hill in some way. So what I was trying to do here is I just tooled a lot of like rocks and things like debug rocks into place to sort of make it look like it's an actual little hill with rocks. I mean, that's literally what we're creating here. So that's what I was trying to do. And that definitely worked out. It was just me bumbling around. I had no idea how that was going to turn out. I wasn't exactly sure what I was doing, but I think it ended up looking just fine. That's usually how it goes for me. Whenever I play around with terrain, I always am very intimidated by it because I just don't really know what I'm doing. But I feel like the terrain tools in The Sims are pretty intuitive, and once you've played around with them a couple times, you can kind of get the hang of it. At least that's the case for me. And of course, everyone has their own preferences and stuff, but whenever you are like kind of familiar with the tools that we have, it starts to become less intimidating. But I only ever experience that when I actually sit around and like sit and use them, like just actually bumble around and just like try them out. And it always, like I said, it always feels very intimidating, but it usually ends up working out for me. And I really like how the terrain ended up looking for this one. I did have to create a couple little staircases and stuff to actually make routing possible here because the hills are pretty steep. So to make things accessible, I actually went and placed some staircases. I think there's a way to like do it without staircases too, if you just make the areas a little bit less steep and so that Sims can actually walk up the hill. I definitely think that that is possible too, but I liked the steep hills for this for some reason. I don't know why, but I think it looked pretty fun. And then yeah, most of this video is just me landscaping, trying to place rocks down with the tool mod and just like placing plans and little details as I was building, which I feel like is the most fun thing when it comes to these builds, is just like kind of building, kind of vibing, like thinking of little Easter eggs that you can recall from either the movies or the books or maybe both. And it's just kind of fun to think how you can make those things come to life in The Sims. For example, we were thinking about Buckbeak, of course, the hippogriff, which if you're thinking of the third movie and the pumpkin patch at Hagrid's house, you think of Buckbeak. At least that's the case for me. So we were just kind of, as I was building this over on Twitch, we were just kind of chatting about, you know, how we could kind of represent Buckbeak. Unfortunately, we just don't have a hippogriff looking anything in this game. So we actually decided to size up a little toy dragon and place that in the pumpkin patch to kind of maybe represent Norbert from the first movie and books, or I don't know, maybe just like some sort of magical creature, because of course Hagrid does take care of a lot of like weird little and huge magical creatures in the forest and stuff and like at his house. So to kind of represent that, that's more so in the books, I want to say, than in the movies, I think. It's been a minute since I've read the books. I think it's like 2 years ago at this point. I've read them a lot of times, but the last time I read them, I think, is like 2 years ago at this point or so. But yeah, in the books, I think it's described a lot more that he is like taking care of animals around his house, and sometimes that's like a little bit problematic when Harry and his friends want to come over and just like there's all these dangerous beasts just walking around and hanging out by the hut. So yeah, it's kind of funny to sort of represent that. We decided to size up a toy dragon and place that, and I think that was so fun. Actually, it's so silly, but like so fun. You can obviously delete it, but because it looks just kind of silly, but it was fun to do anyway. I'm still just working on a little bit of landscaping here. As you can see, it's definitely coming together. I did tweak it a little bit off camera too, so that the routing around the house is a little bit easier, because by the front of the house, there is like a little patch of landscaping, which actually keeps it so that your Sims can't walk around the house and then up to the outhouse. They actually have to exit out of the house and then walk around through the pumpkin patch, and then there's a staircase behind the house to go back up to the outhouse, which didn't really make a lot of sense. So I had to sort of tweak that a little bit so that it's easier to route around and Sims can get to the outhouse and to the bathroom just a little bit easier. If you wanted to actually place this in your game and play, like do gameplay in it, I feel like that would be a nice thing to consider, you know? But here you can see I am placing the pumpkins. I do believe, I'm fairly certain that these are the decorative pumpkins from Cottage Living, which makes it so that they don't actually go bad or like go stinky or anything. They're just decorative pumpkins. I feel like it would be fun though if you really wanted to do gameplay here. You could very easily just delete the decorative pumpkins and maybe place a few gardening patches from Cottage Living so you can do some actual gardening and you can grow some oversized crops and whatnot. I think that'd be really fun. It would look a little bit less natural, I guess, because those pumpkin patches are just like, or the gardening patches are just like square items that you have to place. You can kind of blend them with the rest of the, like with the surrounding area though, if you want to use some terrain paint and stuff. So you could definitely do that. So if you want it, that's just like a quick idea to make this area a little bit more functional as opposed to mainly or only really decorative, which is what I chose to do because I was clearly just mainly going for the vibes here. Like I really wanted to represent Hagrid's hut to the best of my abilities. But yeah, that's just like a quick suggestion if you wanted to make this like a functional space. And then I was just going through a whole bunch of debug items to see what all I could place to make it really come to life. We have these nice wood stacks and stuff that I placed, like all these logs that I placed around the house. I think that was so fun. And then I just did some additional landscaping. But yeah, you have to let me know. How do you think I did? And also, are you enjoying these Harry Potter builds? I just really want want to know all these things. I really do feel like why I was having so much fun with this particular build is because Hagrid is definitely one of my all-time favorite characters from the movies and the books. My all-time favorite character is Luna Lovegood. I love her so much. I'm also in Ravenclaw, so maybe that's why there's a connection there, but I just think that Luna is such a fun character. I love her so much. She's so smart and brave and funny and just so herself, and just, I just love her so much. And then Hagrid is definitely second place. I love him so much. He is so sweet, and whenever I think of Hagrid and like The Prisoner of Azkaban, the movie and the book, they just like, they break my heart. Everything that's going on, and then the stuff with Buckbeak, and he's doing so good as a teacher, and then obviously Malfoy has to come and spoil it all, and it's just, it breaks my heart and makes me so sad and angry. Hagrid doesn't deserve that. He is so sweet and just so amazing. But yeah, here you can really see the place come to life. I decided to add some functional items. We have a nice woodworking table up on the hill right by the little outhouse. I also placed a couple of picnic tables around so Sims can just like hang out outside as well. And then I also just placed a whole heap of, like I said, like debug little decorations. A lot of items from Cottage Living were absolutely perfect for this. And then here you can see I was sizing up the little toy dragon and placing her in the pumpkin patch. I thought that was so cute. I know it's very silly, but it's just like a little quirky little touch for this house that I feel like it definitely kind of needs. And then I also came across, or I didn't actually come across it, we actually specifically thought of this item, an owl that comes with I think it's cats and dogs, and I think it's a reward item for when you finish the feather collection, if I'm not mistaken. There is a really cool owl statue, and it's blue, and I totally forgot that existed because I have been looking for actual little owls to place also in the burrow. But then I thought of this one, and I placed it on the roof. I thought that was so cool. I kind of like tool placed it, and now it looks like there's an owl just hanging out sitting on the roof. Also, what we thought was a cool idea is we have crows now, crows that came with the Life and Death expansion pack. And of course, again, I'm referencing the third movie and book where we have the pumpkin patch, and when the whole thing with Buckbeak happens, particularly around then, but I think also there's some different moments where you can kind of see a lot of crows hanging out in the pumpkin patch. So we decided to sort of try to represent that by placing crows on the pumpkins. It was a little bit finicky because of course the crows are actually on what's the word for that? They're basically like sitting on a pole kind of thing. So I had to tool them into place, but they're so cool because they actually do move, and sometimes they fly away, or they just like hang out and they just sit there and they move, or they sleep, and it's so cute. So I just had to tool those into place on top of the pumpkins for an additional little touch that I think is just really, really fun. But as you can see, we have started the interior now. I had to go and place like a cozy fireplace. I really tried to make this look very messy, and you know, just like there's kind of like stuff and mismatched items basically everywhere. Also, one of the first items that I placed was a black chicken egg, which actually is an egg that came with the Cottage Living expansion, of course, and I sized it up and I placed it in like a little basket, and that is of course the black like dragon egg that Hagrid chose in the first movie and in the first book, that he buys off of a stranger. So yeah, that was a really fun thing to sort of represent here, because we actually do have black eggs in the game. So that was just like such a great opportunity to use and to sort of represent that moment of the story. So we went ahead and did that, and I think that was just so much fun. I'm not exactly sure in gameplay, maybe the eggs do go bad. I'm not exactly sure. So maybe you'll have to, if you actually end up using this build, maybe you'll have to delete that at some point. I'm not exactly sure, but it was a fun thing to sort of represent in this build, and it was absolutely something we just couldn't pass. We just couldn't pass on that opportunity. It was too perfect. But as you can see, we have a nice round dining table with a bunch of mismatched dining chairs. There is a nice cozy fireplace here with a big leather chair. I also placed a tiny bucket. I'm not sure if I've already done that at this point. I can't really see it right now because we're working on the kitchen, but I placed a bucket by the chair. Oh, right. I think I did place it already. To sort of represent the moment where Ron is throwing up slugs I'm sure we all remember this, when a spell that he tries to cast on Malfoy actually backfires because his wand is broken, and then he ends up throwing up slugs, and it's kind of disgusting, and poor Ron, it's just like so bad. But they go to Hagrid's for help, and Ron just kind of throws up slugs in a bucket. It's absolutely disgusting, but it's such an iconic moment that we had to place like a little bucket by the chair to represent that moment. And then here in Hagrid's kitchen, the kitchen placement was a little bit finicky, of course, since it is a lot of diagonal walls in here, but that was absolutely perfect because we kind of want stuff to sort of look a little bit finicky and just like, you know, just like kind of put together in a way that doesn't maybe make a whole lot of sense. So we just have a couple of countertops here on a diagonal. I do really like that sink. I think that is so perfect. We have some mismatched appliances, of course. Weirdly enough, both this fridge and the stove do supposedly work off the grid. I'm not sure how that works, but you know, they work, so that was good. And then when I was playtesting this build, I actually had to swap out the smaller counter, like the corner counter that is next to the stove. I had to swap that one out for a full counter, otherwise the kitchen wasn't functional. But I did make sure to do that, of course, so that the kitchen is functional and you can actually use it. So that's nice. The entire thing is play tested in that way, so everything should be fine. And then, of course, I was just placing a lot of little decorations. I have some like weird potato sacks in the kitchen as well, which I think are so cool. And it was kind of challenging to decorate and furnish a fully octagonal shape. It was so different, but because of that, I was feeling very inspired, and it was something completely different than what I normally do in The Sims. So, you know, that was a nice little change of pace. And I was basically just filling up the space because I really wanted to make it feel very cozy and all the way filled up and a little bit messy. So we definitely have just like little knickknacks everywhere. I also made sure to place a little tea tray on the coffee table. Then I placed a brand new like hot cocoa, I think, tray that we got with an update a few days ago, actually, or a few days ago. I think it was like a week ago at this point. But yeah, we got that brand new update, like a base game update, where they gave us this really cool drink tray where I think your Sims can actually have hot cocoa, maybe some other warm drinks. So I thought that was really, really cute. So I had to place that because obviously Harry and his friends always go over to Hagrid's for tea, so I had to sort of like, you know, put tea items, like stuff to represent that in the game. So that's what I did. Then here we have the really nice big fireplace mantle that also I wanted to just clutter that up all the way because I feel like Hagrid's is the perfect opportunity to clutter all your surfaces and just make it all very messy, and there's just like stuff everywhere to be found. And it's just so fun. I also placed that mushroom stool in the corner. I thought that was absolutely perfect. I do believe that the way I had placed it right now, the coffee table was actually blocking the fireplace from being functional, but I did move that out of the way and I shuffled things around a little bit so that your Sims can actually reach the fireplace and light it up so that they can have like a nice cozy fire in there. And then of course in the other portion of the house, which I'm not sure if that is ever actually shown in the movies, I'm not exactly sure, but there is an area here in the back as well, and I turned that into Hagrid's bedroom. So we just have a nice cozy bed here, a lot of candles because again we are building off the grid, so I made sure to not use any lamps here for the most part, but just candles and like small wall like sconces and stuff. So I thought that was really cute. I also placed a small fireplace in the bedroom area because, you know, how else are you gonna get the space warm? So I just placed a little fireplace in there. I thought that was so cute. And then for whatever reason, I felt the need to put some different throw pillows here on the bed in a brown color. It's not because I didn't like the pillows on the bed, but I felt like it was just a little bit too put together looking, so I decided to place just some like mismatched brown pillows on the bed. I know they don't really look worn or distressed or anything, but I just thought it was a nice change of pace and it made the bed look a little bit different and a little bit less put together in a way, so that's why I went for that. And then of course I'm not sure if Hagrid would really have a desk or anything. Maybe he does, I don't really know. He doesn't really spend a lot of time indoors, I don't think, so I'm not sure, but I had to fill up the space clearly, so I just placed a little desk here. He also has some nice wardrobes that I just kind of merged together. I thought that was nice. We also have a place or a space for Fang, of course, which is Hagrid's dog. And the dog is huge, so clearly I had to go for the biggest dog bed that we have. I placed some muddy paw prints by both the back door but also the front door, actually, because, you know, the place would just be a little bit messy and a little bit muddy in that sense. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. If we had like human muddy footprints, I would definitely place those all around as well, but unfortunately we don't, so I just placed the little dog footsteps. And then a bunch of cracks in the wall and just like cobwebs and stuff like that. I thought that would make so much sense. I also had the umbrella rack. Of course, I placed that one by the front door because Hagrid, I don't think he's allowed a wand actually, but I think he like hides it in his umbrella. So of course I had to also represent that moment here in the build, and I just placed a little umbrella rack and also some brooms on the wall. I don't think Hagrid flies a broom. Hagrid flies a motorcycle, which I placed one on this lot because I really wanted to have a little motorcycle. We don't actually have them in the game, but there are so many insanely creative creators out there that build motorcycles out of debug items and put them on the gallery as rooms. So I went on a little motorcycle hunt on the gallery and I placed one. I did, of course, credit the creator in my description for this house on the gallery. So I'll show you the motorcycle and I'll obviously credit the creator and let you know who it's by so you can find it if you actually want to use it. But it's so cool. Like, it's the perfect motorcycle put together out of debug items. It is so insanely creative and so cool. So I had to make use of that opportunity. Then, of course, here we have the little outhouse, which is nothing special, but it is kind of cozy looking. And then for a final finishing touch here, I had to go ahead and place a well for Hagrid to get water. But then that is essentially it. So let's jump into the game and I'll show you the build in real time. So here we have Hagrid's hut in the game. I actually also downloaded a Hagrid sim off the gallery to play test because I thought, why not just do it in style? I had too much fun with this. I feel like this person did really well. And then I'll just immediately show you the motorcycle because it's so cool. Look at this. This is all put together using both debug items and regular items, but clearly a lot of tool mod was used. But it's just so cool, and it is absolutely perfect. So I had to place that out here. But this is Hagrid's hut. I just love how it looks this time of day, actually. Later in the afternoon, I feel like it looks so cozy. We have the pumpkin patch over here, clearly. The toy dragon that I just think looks so cute. And as you can see here, we have the little ravens. It's not perfect, but it's really cute though. Like, you can kind of see them. They're just sitting there moving around. Sometimes they'll like poof and fly away. There's a couple more here as well. And I just think that that is such a fun detail. Around here, your Sims can actually walk through this area, and then there is a small outhouse here. I'll just show you that one. There is a tub that is functional off the grid. You can only take a quick bath, as you can see. The toilet is fully functional, and then for the sink, you can quickly wash your hands and quickly brush your teeth and stuff. There is also a woodworking bench out here for some skill building, and then just a fun picnic table. And then going inside, this is the front door leading into the house. I feel like it's so cozy looking with the fire going and all the torches and the candles and a couple of like little potions. The dragon egg is just like sitting here. I thought that was so fun. There's a bookcase back here and just some additional storage. We have a round dining table with a whole bunch of mismatched chairs, clearly. And then there's this really cute tray where your Sims can actually have some hot cocoa. So there's also vegan hot cocoa, there's peppermint hot cocoa, all types of hot cocoa, which I think is so cute. It's just so cozy. And then over here is the kitchen that I really like. I love all this produce from Hagrid's garden. There is a fridge and a stove and a sink, so it is fully functional actually. Through the archway over here is where we have Hagrid's bedroom and also a little desk. So there is another small fireplace in here, a spot for Fang to sleep, clearly, a nice desk, and just some storage over here, and a bunch of little knickknacks because it just has to look a little messy. And then here you can get a better look at the back of the house. So there is a pathway leading all the way around, and then you can walk back up here, use these stairs, and get up to the outhouse this way as well. But yeah, that is basically it for Hagrid's hut. So Hagrid's hut is up on on the gallery. It has the off the grid lot challenge. There's no pack restrictions for this one, so it actually does use a lot of packs, but I feel like it came together really nicely. I built it on a 40 by 30 in the world of Glimmerbrook, so that's where you can place it. And then the motorcycle is by this creator. I actually saved their motorcycle here. It's called a Sidecar Motorcycle 1. It's by this creator, as you can see, Magnus Kuchen, I think. I am probably not pronouncing that correctly, but isn't it so cool looking? So you can just download this as a room and then delete the floor from under it if you want to. And it's just insanely creative. So yeah, that's what I did. And then the Hagrid sim I used is this one, which is by the creator Dargor. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's just called Hagrid, and I just feel like this is insanely well done. So yeah, that's what I used. But that is going to do it for today's video, so I really hope that you enjoyed this one. You can obviously go ahead and download this build off the gallery like I just showed you. My username on the gallery is Simmary Sims. You can follow me on Instagram and on TikTok if you like. My username on there is Simmary Sims as well. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, feel free to do so. And if you'd like to get notified of every single time I upload a video, just click that little bell icon and you should be fine. I also live stream over on Twitch a few times a week, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and give me a follow over on twitch.tv/Simmary Sims. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!